Hi, welcome. It's time for a campaign update. State of my campaign, state of the union, and state of the world. I am Susan Maud Buchser-Lochocki, a presidential candidate from the past election in 2024. I have not conceded because I have a lawsuit pending with the Supreme Court. So, I'm still a candidate from last election, and I am most likely going to run for president in the coming election again. I'm not quite sure exactly with or who I will be with, but anyways, just to let you know that I am thinking very strongly for it. I think I'm still needed as a voice for our country and for the world. So, welcome. Now, I wanted to specifically state that I seem to recall 10 years ago when I turned 50 that I think I was putting together my second smile cloud. I had started smile clouds, I think, earlier that year, or perhaps even 1 year earlier. I can't remember the dates and I don't have them because I've had to move and I'm living in like two places, and I've been campaigning for president twice, and so I've been all over the world and all over the states for at least 2 of the last 5 years. So anyways, long story short, my life has been nonstop action and change for the last 5 years. But then prior to that, I was going through a lot of change too, because I was moving out of the active motherhood role into the passive motherhood role. And then I was starting up my career again in art. So forgive me for not actually remembering if it was in 14 or 15. I seem to think actually I did the first smile cloud ever in 14. So then I might have tried to do a smile cloud, and then I was doing other things, trying to build up a sort of paint and drink travel excursion thing to build like team building and stuff, and to experience artists and learn about different art genres out there, and to appreciate the artists that were before us. And so I started this thing called Just Paint, and I was putting it together, and it was I learned a lot, and it got me back into the art world, and it got me appreciating the artists. I did not have a lot of helpers at all, or a lot of people who wanted to come and paint and drink. It was like it was an early edition. 10 years ago, these things didn't exist in the US or in Switzerland. And I was introducing this to Swiss people, and it did not take off at the time. Now it's popular, but at the time it was not popular. So anyways, it was a good opportunity for me to think about art and where I was going and what I wanted to do. And then I came up with the smiles. And then I came up with I was turning 50, so I asked all my friends to send me their smiles for my smile cloud. I was going to do a 50th smile cloud. And now I'm on the cusp of turning 60. And, I'm still working with those smiles, although the last 5 years I haven't been collecting any, because I've been running for office and I didn't want everything to get confused, and I wanted people to take me seriously as a political candidate. So I put the smiles and smile clouds a little bit on the side, but I'm still doing a little bit. But I'm bringing this up because, the Zionists is really the start for me of the smile clouds. So it started with my first child, with Kai when he was born. And we were at the local hospital, and I think that they knew that I was an atheist, and they decided when our son was seemingly quite sick and removed from being with me and placed on machines, suddenly a priest and a minister showed up, and they were trying to see if we needed them for anything. And I mean, I was like, what do I need you for? So anyways, they went away. And then also, I think when we were at the children's hospital getting diagnosed, I'm not sure if maybe somebody else showed up there, but then we sent them away, or at least I did. And it just seems that the Zionists are sometimes behind some of these things. Yeah. So the Zionism is strong, and people's belief in Jesus and God is very strong in several, in many countries. Yeah, so that was sort of my first experience with the sort of, when tragedy hits, they come around. And I was like, this is kind of strange. We didn't request them or anything, and they just sort of showed up. But what I will say is that fast forward to then, here I was, I had my daughter. She was 3 years old, and I went to. It took about 2.5 months to find out what was wrong with her. I went to several doctors because I was switching, trying to find a new pediatrician. I didn't like the one that I had at the time. And I found, I eventually found one who could solve my problem and tell me what was wrong with my daughter, who was hardly walking anymore after 2.5 months of progressively getting sicker and sicker. It turned out she had leukemia. And then we went off to the, hospital for further diagnosis and everything. And again, these people showed up, both a priest and a minister, and trying to push their God on us. And I again sent them away. But so during that time of my daughter's illness, there was a group of women, Christians, who were meeting in our town and apparently praying for her recovery. Now, I thought that was nice. Whatever. It was nice. And then I decided to, afterwards, when she was healed, I decided to go to a brunch of theirs and, just say thank you. And so I did. And then it seemed like a nice bunch of ladies, so I decided to stay and see what this, local prayer thing was about. And again, after some time, I realized it was about gossiping, about knowing what's going on in the neighborhood. I mean, there's nothing wrong with knowing what's going on in the neighborhood, but some of the ways that the things were introduced and talked about was not healthy. It was gossip. It was not honorable. And so eventually I was like, yeah, I don't think this is really going to work because, I wasn't a believer, and I just found it not healthy how they were doing it. So then, how can I say it? My daughter actually had leukemia twice as a child. Once at 3, she was diagnosed with it, and then again at 7. And then I went to the brunch after the second time when she was about 10. And then one day, I don't know when, it was pretty much when I decided to start the Smile Clouds. So it might have been in 2014. I was driving home, or we were all driving home from, I think, a birthday party of my daughter's, so my mother-in-law's. And on the way home, this friend of my daughter's and her mother, who is supposed to be a friend of mine too, they were walking towards the traffic, and I was going towards them. And so we could face each other and see each other. And I saw them, for some reason, my husband and I, at the time, we went with 2 different cars. And so he was in the front car and I was after. So I watched her and her daughter wave at my husband driving by. But then when I got there, not only did they not wave at me, the mother did not wave at me, but she didn't want her daughter to wave at me. And she put her arms around her daughter, holding her arms down so that her daughter wouldn't wave at me. And this is one of these very Christian women who clearly didn't want her daughter to show me the respect that she showed to someone else. So that was my first real introduction to the Zionist prejudice that's out there. And that's exactly when I started something called I'm Flattered. Because it's when things around me at the time in Switzerland were like, I would get something, but then there would be, like, I had a parking spot at my studio in Switzerland, but then somebody illegally parked there and I was paying rent for it, but I couldn't get the car, whoever's car that was, out of there. And so I finally stopped renting a parking spot because it didn't make sense to rent one and have somebody else park there. And had the laws are in such a way that, you have to pay to have it towed. And if you tow it, you have to pay the towing charge. And then if the person doesn't claim it, you are still stuck with paying the towing charge. So, it just, people started doing strange things like that. I would go to do some artwork, and then some of the people in the building started making lots of noise and stuff at the same time. So there was clearly like weird sabotage stuff going on. And I just found it really unacceptable. So I started realizing that, these are bullies. Zionists are bullies. And there's a lot of them. And they work in groups. And so, I had this group that was coming after me and trying to sabotage me in all sorts of ways. So instead of cowering and letting them win, I decided to fight back. And I started my first smile cloud, where I started collecting smiles from people who were having similar experiences, or people who just didn't like bullies. And and hate and all of this. And so it was a uniting factor to show that there are powers in our numbers too, the ones that are not accepting the bullying anymore from the church, or the churches, I should say, or the Zionists, really, and the fanatical Zionists. Because there are Zionists and then there are fanatical Zionists. So these are more the fanatical ones. But, you really, you don't know where life is going to take you. And at the time, smiles were doing the job of sort of creating a unity against hate and bias and arrogance and just everything that Zionism fanatics are. And it was good. It was a good start. And then from there, I created my first one ever. Then I created my birthday one. Then I created one for Dada. And then I started my Smile for Peace, It's Enough Already. And that is the one where I'm bringing smiles from different religions together to show that even the religious and the non-religious, so atheists, can also be in a space together in unity against hate and religious fanaticism. And then from there, it was 2019 when I had just finished a big art show in Cabaret Voltaire in Zurich, Switzerland, the home of Dadaism. And I was celebrating Dada at this event. No, actually, sorry. Well, yes, I was. Dada and Woodstock. It was also the 50th anniversary of Woodstock. So then, after that is when I decided to find out how to run for president, because I was already working at promoting peace between people of different religions with these smile cloud works I was doing. But I realized, is it really smiles and art and things that are so important, or is it really bringing peace? And then I thought, well, what's the best job to have to bring peace? And that was President of the United States. So that's what got me in it, was the need to forge a path of peace through the Zionist agenda. And here we are in 2025, and I'm still working at that. I am not president that I know of, but I am reaching people anyways just from where I am. And I'm still hopeful that the Supreme Court will act on my lawsuit, and then maybe things might really change and we won't have rigged elections anymore. So part of the Zionist plan is to, run the world, and we it's not acceptable what's gone on in the name of Jesus, in the name of Zionism. And so it is time to take back the world and live together in harmony, which we can. So that is the state of my campaign. I'm still working on, the Zionist agenda and stopping it, because it is not a peaceful one. So this is the end of my campaign part of the campaign update for today. I will come back to you with the State of the Union in part 2. So this is the end of part 1. You can look me up at Susan4USA.com. That's Susan, the number 4, USA.com, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.